theyeshiva.net.
So what was the point we learned yesterday? Which I don't see as pessimistic at all. On the contrary, I see it as very real, very real. That there's two types of inspiration in Avodas Hashem. One is delusional. But when we say delusional, it doesn't mean like we say delusional, the guy is, just out of it. Delusional is sometimes big. And that's really, I think, what we should appreciate about this, that we're used to delusional inspiration. You feel good for 20 minutes, a half an hour. Some good songs, some, good kiddush afterwards. It's like, why not? And sometimes people think that that's the essence of Yiddishkeit. And what Alter Rebbe is teaching us here, it's called the Myonis Shav. A person, you find a way of feeling good about God. That's basically the inspiration that is very common. And it's not, you're going to use the word, he doesn't use it, it's manipulative. Manipulative means you're trying to fix your own system. Yeah. He says, a real relationship with Ein Sof is a real relationship with Ein Sof. It's both ways. A relationship doesn't mean that I have a crush on you and you don't know about it. That's a crush. That's not a relationship, right? We all know the difference. A relationship means that we're both invested fully. Your heart is there, and my heart is there. That's what a relationship is. A relationship is, there's a two-way street here. Or even deeper, a head-and-head collision, I should say a heart-and-heart collision. Not just a two-way street, I'm going there, you're going there. It's not just reciprocal, there's a meeting of the souls. A meeting of the souls. And essentially, but you're dealing here with infinity. You're not dealing here with a person who, I give you, you give me, you need my company, I need your company. So he says, that's why it's a gift that Hashem, b'makom shata motzei gedulasei, shama ta motzei an vosnusei, hagadol, to be Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov, that it's a gift. It's a gift. I want to be yours. I want to be connected with you. That's what allows any real emotion that's not just flimsy, kan nimtze, kan hoya. And he said, and the beginning of that is the person understanding. You can have an emotion. It's Meshakela. Meshakela means, there's pregnancy, there's a development of a child. Emotions are always called children, ben or bas. There's masculine emotions, there's feminine emotions, there's a son, there's a daughter, but there's children. Emotions are associated with children. Chachma is called a father, Bina is called a mother. We learned many times, Chachma is called Abba, Bina is called Ima, Das is the intimacy, Va'adam Yada is Chava. But then there are the emotions. Emotions are the children. But Chas v'Shalom, Meshakela, Leisia Meshakela is that there is the emotion dies in utero or shortly after. In other words, it doesn't last. Akara is that Bechlal there's no development, there's no fertility. Two states. Yeah. So the Chesaron is it's Bartzecha. Bartzecha means I think I own it because I don't realize the truth of the relationship. The truth of the relationship is that all Avos Hashem, all Yis Hashem is what Hashem gives me. That's what it is. That's the realness of it. That's what makes it. That God, Hashem chooses. He wants. Here is a piece of me. Here is a piece of Avos Hashem. Here is a piece of Yiras Hashem. He says, Achine yesh oid b'chidas akara. There's another form of akara. V'hu kinyan, it's 157, the second paragraph. On top it says Mishpatim. Ayin Tes column 1. Achina yesh oid b'chinas hakara. V'hu kinyan Maimer Azal al posik ein lo vlad. Afilu beis vlad ein lo. There's a Gemara Meshakela Yavamas Daf Samach Daled. The Gemara says on the posik, it says in Parshas Noach about Sarah. About Lech about Sarah. Vatihi Sarah Yakara, Ein Lo Vlad. Sarah was an Akara. She had no child. So the Gemara asks, it's redundant. An Akara means a barren woman. An Akar is a barren man. Akara is a barren woman. Obviously, if she's an Akara, she's infertile. Ein Lo Vlad. She doesn't have a child. So the Gemara answers, Afilu Beis Vlad Ein Lo. It's very different. Sometimes the physical mechanisms are there. It's just a child doesn't happen. There's no conception, and an embryo doesn't develop from the connection between the seed of life and the egg. That's one challenge. In fact, sometimes, as we know, years can pass. Everything seems normal from a medical perspective. The potential is there. Just didn't happen. There's a special blessing to have a child. The Gemara says that's hakara. Ein lo vlad means afilu beis vlad ein lo. The home, the beis vlad, the uterus, the home, to be able to absorb the embryo, to be able to develop the fetus, ein lo, she doesn't have. That's a different type of hakara. In other words, so he says that's oid. You have before the concept of an hakara, there's no birth. In other words, the pregnancy and the birth don't happen. Sometimes, he says, Beis Vlad Ein Lo. Even the keli for it doesn't exist. V'shahayu tumtumim pirush shenistam kol kach at she'ein lo klei kibul lekabel harayon. Yeah, Yevama Samach Daled, yeah. The expression is tumtumim. The word tumtumim means plugged, nistam. The system is plugged. There's no clay kibble. There's no receptacle. There's no vessel that's a receptacle to be able to receive hirayon, which is impregnation, pregnancy. Sada. Ein lo, ein beis vlad ein lo. You mean tumtumim also Avraham? Can sein. Al derech zehine yesh ba'adam gam kin b'chinezu. By a person, you can also have this dimension, la'avodas Hashem. She'enoi toifes b'moiche v'sichlei ha'emes. Kasher hu machmas she'en loi kli machzik. A person, sometimes you have a Meshakela and Akara, he said before, there's pregnancy. But the Meshakela is the stillborn, etc. Spiritually, we explained what that is. Sometimes you have the union of Akara, that it doesn't develop to that point. Sometimes there's no Keli. He can't grasp in his mind truth as is, because you always need a Keli, a vessel, to be able to hold on to a emes. Knesses Yisrael nikra kais Yeshuas. Knesses Yisrael, meaning the assembly of the Jewish people, are called Kais Yeshuas. Kais Yeshuas Eser b'Shem Hashem Ekra. The whole Knesses Yisrael is called a Kais Yeshuas. What's pshat Kais? Kais is a cup, a goblet. Shu klei kibul lekabel hachasadim halyonim. It's a Kais for Yeshua. It's a Kais of Yeshua. What do we mean? Knesses Yisrael is a klei kibul. It's a receptacle. It's an open keli to receive chasadim halyonim, to be able to absorb divine love. That's Knesses Yisrael. V'nikra kais shel bracha. In the expression of Chazal, this is called kais shel bracha. Kais shel bracha in halacha, of course, means the kais that we use for bracha, for berachas hamazon. When there's 10 people, or even according to some opinions, 3 people, and even according to some opinions, 1 person. Halacha, it's usually not done with 1 person. But it's a kais shel bracha, meaning it's a kais for birchas hamazon. And everybody knows that kais shel bracha has a lot of halachas. Gemara says, Asara dvarim nemru b'kais shel bracha. 10 things were said by kais shel bracha. Some of them he's going to discuss. From shtifa to hadacha, you rinse it out inside and you rinse it out outside, and you have to pick it up a tefach. It's a whole process. 10 things are said by kais shel bracha. The cup that they give you for benching over a cup of wine after the meal. Yeah. So that's the nigla of it, the halacha of it. He says that nekuda really of kais shel bracha represents Knesset Yisrael. Knesset Yisrael is a kais, a clay kibble to receive divine love, and it's called kais shel bracha. It receives wine. That's what kais shel bracha is. You put in wine. Yayin is called Yayin HaMesameach. In Tanakh, Yayin Mesameach Elikim V'Anashim. Wine that brings joy. So it's Makabel Yayin HaMesameach. Dahainu B'chines is Beinunus Hanal. What is this cup? This is the Hisbeinunus, the meditation, the contemplation. Discussed before in the first Perek, in the first section. Va'avadatam es Havaya Elikechem. That Havaya should become Elokeichem, should be mine. That infinity is mine. That it's real. What do we mean it's mine? Not mine that I own it, that it becomes limited. Mine that it's real. Like something that I put in my pocket, something that I see. It's real to me. That who am I? I am a shtik Havaya. And for that to be able to happen, you must have a gift. I can open myself up. But I have to open myself up. I have to have a keli, a kais. And that kais is a kais that's receptacle to wine, that brings joy. Yayin HaMesameach, because there's no joy like the joy of being filled up with the divine reality, with divine infinity. That's kais shel bracha. But v'hainuk shel klei reikan. There's one condition in kais shel bracha. The Gemara doesn't even have to say it. It's before the 10 things. It has to be empty. If the cup is filled to the top, right, with orange juice or with Pepsi, would be a more appropriate mashal, then it's not a kais that you could put in the yayin. So hanuk shel klei reikan, it has to be an empty vessel. What is this spiritually? When the person fills up the space with himself, meaning with his ego, so then instead of being an open cup, he becomes in his own consideration a yesh v'davar, something that's separate, something that's completely detached. It's a yesh. Yesh means it's an egotistical being that's separate from the source, from everything, from the true infinity. And therefore his entire occupation is only in what his own desires are, desires that come from his separateness. Loimar, saying, Kach ani roitze, this I want. Kach toivli, this is good for me. Zeini yachalasas, this I can do. V'kayoytze b'dvarim, any of these types of words. V'yesh b'ze pratim u pratim adein mispar. This concept you can relate and elaborate on details and details of details ad infinitum, to no number. How much a person can become detached and separate, and therefore all they're doing is trying to protect themselves. This I can do, this I can't, this I can't, this I could. He says, he just gives 3 mishalim, and then he says, pratim adem mispa. Ach derech klal. So there's the details of it, but generally, yesh b'china zu lekol echad v'echad limtze b'nafshe. Every person could find this in their own soul. Those who consider themselves businessmen, meaning they're involved all day in the pursuits of making a living, but they shouldn't think that this is exclusive to people who are outside in the world. It's true about the Yoshvei Alam equally. Yoshvei Alam means people who sit in the tents, they sit and learn. In everything, there's only one thing he has to say, I. That's the only thing he has to say. In every conversation, there's one akud, ani. It can express itself in 1,000 ways. This one is in Masa Matan, this was in learning. But the Nekuda, the software is different. But the hard drive, is the same. Maybe even the hard drive is different, but the chip is the same. What happens is his mind, his brain is plugged. It's sealed. It's not tamtum. That's called timtum hamayach. What's timtum hamayach? Nothing goes in. Why does nothing go in? Because it's not a clay reikon. The vessel is not empty. Why is the vessel not empty? Because I'm in a mode of separateness, so therefore all I have is my own defense mechanisms called the ego, and that's what my keli is filled up with. So Mela, I can't even open up a keli to have a child. To have a child, was talking spiritually, there has to be a womb. The definition of the womb is, a womb creates a keli every single month. The miracle of biology is that Hashem created is that the organism, the female organism, creates a keli. The question is if the keli is going to be filled or the keli is not going to be filled. If the keli is filled, it's called pregnancy. If the keli is not filled, so at some point the uterus dissolves, Parshas biologically, and that's what creates the dam nida, the blood of the monthly cycle, because the keli dissolved, it broke, and it creates a lot of dam, a lot of blood, which we're going to discuss later. But to be, that's before that. So sometimes the Gemara says, Akara ein la beis vlad. It's not that the child didn't come in, there was no conception, there was no embryo. Even the keli for it doesn't exist. What says the keli for it doesn't exist? It's not that I'm waiting, nobody showed up, God didn't show up. That's something else. That's something else. Because God is present. God is present. You create a keli, He wants a relationship. He always wants a relationship. The question is in what level, how much is being expressed, how much is being manifested. But even what a base of vlad means, that I don't have an openness to it. I don't have an openness to experience, to say it in a simple sentence, to experience life as oneness with infinity. Why? Because I'm stuck. My keli is filled up. What is it filled up? It's filled up with what he calls here, he's busy saying this I want, this is good for me, this I can't do. And the bottom line is, in everything I just have to say, me, I. And he said, this doesn't have to do, you shouldn't think. A person sits and learns all day, so how can he be shaykh to such a thing? He's sitting and learning holy things. He says, if he'll look in his soul, he'll find it. In other words, he may be doing great things and wonderful things, or somebody may be in a different field. He says, that's not negeya. This pratim or pratim, how it's manifested is endless. But if a person looks in their soul, they often see that there is an essential blockage that comes from the fact that I don't know how to really open up. So the ani is the only thing I have. It's my last defense. What do you want? You want me to empty out the keli? What is it going to be left with? Or to put it in different words, if you want, to be able to create an empty vessel takes a lot of guts because it's going to be empty. And what if nobody fills it up? Nobody fills it up, it gets bloody. Pun intended. Emotionally, I'm talking about. That's not an easy experience. At least if I fill it up, good, but this is my security. Why does a person always say ani? I always say ani because that's my survival. You have it in an extreme. It's called narcissism. So that's in an extreme of it. But what is that really? It's really, I can't trust anybody in this world, so everything has to be a mirror. I just always have to find myself in it. So that's in an extreme manifestation. But the Nekuda of the Alter Rebbe is that it's expressed in so many different ways, by so many different people in so many different situations. What does this do? My brain is plugged. There's no kais shel bracha. I can't receive the yayin ha'mesameach. V'hine ha'etza lasses klei reikon. No, what's the etza? No. The Moshe says, what are you doing? Somebody comes into the office and the keli is still the top and you can't even say anything. What's tutman? Huh? You learn this mimer with them. To have two Torah iris and say Lamalen and a mimer. So even if the therapy doesn't help, the valley will learn a little. V'hine ha'etze lasses klei reikan. What's the etze? To form an empty vessel. K'may and this the pasuk says in Tehillim, Leiv nishbar v'nitke Elokim lo sivza, which means a heart that is nishbar, that is fragmented, is God does not disgrace. And another pasuk is in Yeshaya Hanavi, Esdaka, Eshkoin Esdaka ushval ruach. I dwell in the humble one, in the daka, in the one that's crushed. What does this mean? So when people read this pasuk, it's like Leiv nishbar, you have to break your heart. What does it mean, break your heart? What does it mean? He says, who kamashal, it's not a breaking. He gives a very simple mashal, but the mashal changes everything. It's uman ha'oisekli. If you ever watched a craftsman constructing a vessel, a potter, you ever saw a potter? Anybody ever saw a potter, huh? Yeah, what does he do? Shetzarich la'akoisa bepatish, saviv saviv, at shenasa chalol b'seich. He takes a hammer and he claps. He claps around and around until he creates a cavity. A chalal is a cavity, an empty space. If he wants a deeper keli, obviously he has to pound much more and stronger in a longer time. That depends on the nature of the vessel. But that's what the Uman does. V'kach yiyeh ha'adam. The same is true. A person has to become that craftsman. Yitke. V'yashuach liyos shval ruach shelo yitfos mokem klal. Now these are heavy words. What's the eitzah for this person? Shelo yitfos mokem klal. The space has to become empty. He should not occupy the space. There has to be a space that is completely empty. Ki'ilu ayin ve'efes mamash. As though it's mamash, naught and nothingness. And that moment when you think you have nothing, that's the moment you open yourself up to everything. It's not an easy moment, this. Because this hammer, when you're looking at it superficially, whatever there was, I'm knocking out. What am I creating? Nothingness, a cavity, an empty space. You're not filling it. God is going to have to fill it. You can't fill it. Even if you want, you can't fill it. That's why children is a blessing. Everything in biology is a miracle, but with children you see it. Sometimes as a couple and everything is working, l'chayra, and it's not working. Because that's the nekuda. That's the filling it, but we're not talking now. We're talking about the base of la, the clay reikon, the emptiness, is a feeling of ayin ve'efes mamish. There's like an openness, an emptiness, that his whole mokum is ponoi v'chalul kilu ayin ve'efes mamish. And that takes a hammer. And it can happen in two ways. It can happen in two ways. The Balatanya had a son, the Mittler Rebbe, so he said this maimer with more elaboration, as I usually do. So he explains it happens in two ways. One is it can happen through his boinanus, meaning through self-initiation, and one is through life circumstances. So the second one everybody understands. The chiddush is that it can happen also the first way. Life circumstances means that certain people experience certain things in life and they just can't be in denial anymore. Sometimes it happens later in life. You know, we each build up for ourselves. I can't say all of us, but many of us, we build for ourselves certain, what they call in English today, comfort zones, which we live in. You know, your life is manageable at work. I'm talking about a functional, more or less successful person. You know, it's like the palace you live in. The fish do it to welcome their mates, you know, the catfish or the other fish. We build it, the birds do it, you know. They ever see birds clean up the nest, huh? And we also do it, we're tidy, yeah. We have bigger nests, especially in Monsey, and you're tidy, you clean up your mess. And more or less, life is under control. So that's a good thing, that people's lives should be organized and under control. But what often happens is, it also gives room for tremendous stagnation, for paralysis, for a certain form of deadness. This is who I am, and this is it, and nothing can pierce it. And then sometimes there comes a situation where life circumstances shake up people, and they shake up people to the core. It can happen as a result of a breakdown in a marriage. It can happen as a result of a challenge with children, a child or with children. Different types of challenges. Psychological, emotional, physical, spiritual. It can happen as a result of other circumstances in life, health issues, financial issues, midlife crises, or other things. And then this structure that I built, there's holes everywhere. The ceiling is caving in. The walls are caving in. Yeah? You ever had a flood in your house, right? You're sitting in the dining room and suddenly what you thought was a comfortable room is one big churva. So psychologically, everything is caving in on the person. What happens at that moment? What happens at that moment is many of us still resist. You resist. You move into the basement. You move into the basement. You create substitutes. You create compensations. Yeah. Yeah. Some people check out of life at that moment. They emotionally close up. What happens, though, to some people is this process that actually the keli empties out. The person stops trying to be in control and resisting, yeah, but they actually open themselves up to their own emptiness, to their own sense of ignorance, to their own sense of uncertainty. And as he puts it, then there's probably no better words for this. I never saw a better description for this emotional state. He occupies no space. I feel like I know nothing. I have no space. I don't know what this eye looks like anymore. I'm ready to reshape it completely, like the potter. Yeah, takes his mud and his wheel. Ayin ve'efes mamash. I don't recognize the I from the past. It's not doing anything for me anymore. So I say goodbye to it. I don't recognize it. What fills that space now? A sense of complete emptiness. Leiv nishbar. What's a broken heart? A broken heart doesn't mean you take a heart with a hammer and you break it. A broken heart means that there's cracks in the ego so that the light could come in. Verstehst? That's what a broken heart means. Leiv nishbar doesn't mean people think I'll break your heart, I'll insult you, I'll denigrate you. No, that's part of the neurosis. Leiv nishbar means there's cracks that allows it to open to something else. It allows it to get rid of what's inside and open it itself up. Yeshuach means he becomes humble. The word yitka means like crushed, like fragmented. Yeshuach, he becomes humble. Like it's a posture of humility, emotionally speaking. A classic example for this is the story in Gemara Meseches Tainas. It's an incredible story, Daf Chaf. The Gemara tells the following story. There was a Jew, Rebbe Lazar, the son of Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, his son, Rebbe Lazar bar Reb Shimon. One of the greatest sages of his time was coming back from his Rebbe, where he was learning. He was going back home. He was very good mood. It's probably a good shiur or a good few weeks, and he was geschmack. The Gemara says he was coming home. He was riding on a donkey at the bank of a river on the way home. There was another Jew riding on the donkey, and he meets him. You know, when you stop at the red lights, pull down the window, and he sees Rebbe Lazar bar Shimon. So he says what we would think is very appropriate. He says, Shalom Aleichem Moiri v'Rabbi. Greetings, my teacher, my master. So Rebbe Lazar looks at him and says 4 words, Kama mechur adam za. How ugly can a human being be? How ugly, mechur. Perhaps all the people in your city are as ugly as you. And he uses the word reka, how empty. Empty. The man did not lose his cool. He said, Leich le'uman sha'asani, ve'emor loi, kama mechur kli zeh she'asis. Go to the craftsman who made me, the one who fashioned, and tell him, this vessel that you constructed is pretty grotesque and repulsive. So the Belazar felt bad. No kidding. So he asked forgiveness. So the guy says, I'm not going to be moichel. You go to the craftsman who made me and tell him, it's ugly. Your vessel was a pretty big failure in this case. They come to the city. Apparently the Olam knew he's coming, the Belazar. So the whole city came out to be makabel upon him. You know, the Rebbe came to Stadt, came to the city, everybody came. This fellow sees a whole crowd coming. So he asked somebody, they're not coming for me. Who are they coming to greet? They said, what do you mean? Rebbe Lazar Reb Shimon. He says, who is that? He says, one of the Gedolei Hadar, one of the leaders of the generation. He says, if he's a leader of the generation, let's pray that we don't have such leaders among our midst. They said, what happened? So he told them the story, how he insulted him. So they said, you should forgive him because he's a great person. So he said, I'll forgive him. Ubilvad shelo yeh rogel lasos ken. He shouldn't turn this into a habit. That when somebody says Shalom Aleichem, you look at him and you say, wow, where did this ugliness come from? And the Gemara says, Miyad nichnas Belazar lebeis hamedrash. Belazar walked into the beis hamedrash, and he went to the bima, and he said that La'olam yehei adam rach kekonav al yeh kosher keres. Person should be soft as a reed and not harsh as a cedar tree. And that's why Sifrei Torah, Tefillin, and Mezuzahs were written from you use a kana, a reed to produce them. That's the end of the story. Now, how do you understand this story? Let's say you're not a Gadol Hadar, yeah? Let's say you're just a regular guy. Forget even about Judaism. You're a regular fine Gentile. Yeah? And somebody comes over to you and says, good morning. Good Shabbos. How are you? No, what's the response? Even if you're in the worst of moods, even if you're having a bad day, right? You ever, good Shabbos, good morning, how are you? Wow, you're so ugly. Who ever heard of such a response? It says no, he was in a good mood. So even if you're a little frivolous and you're feeling a little pompous, but what's the word? You're feeling a little. There's a word for it in English. Jolly, euphoric. What's this? What's this abuse? The guy didn't do anything. The guy said Shalom Aleichem Rabbi. It's a very difficult story to understand. The Marsha asks an interesting question. When the man forgives him, he doesn't say never do it again. He says don't make a habit out of it. Once a month, it's fine. What to be malbim pnei chavei, you should never do it. Not an easy story to understand. I'll tell you an explanation that I heard from the Lubavitcher Rebbe about this. He says, Belazar Reb Shimon was not narcissistic, he was not pompous, he was actually very sensitive. Sometimes you meet a person, he says, Chachmas Adam Toyer Ponav. You could see on a person's face who they are. If you're sensitive, the chachma of a person is on a person's face. You look into the eyes, you could see a person. Not everybody, but a lot of people could see. Belazar Reb Shimon, due to his connection to his soul and to God and to people, looked at this person and he really saw that this man is in the dumps. In today's language, I'm just using my own language to explain today's language, we call it an addict. An addict. What's the definition of an addict? An addict is you don't even have control. The disease took over. You lost control. Rebbe Lazar realized that this person needs what we would call today shock treatment. And that's what he was trying to do. Empty one. How ugly are you? And it's not even about you. Maybe you come from such an environment, but do you realize how ugly you are? There's nothing left. There's nothing left. There's no humanness in you. There's no dignity in you. Rebbe Lazar felt that if he doesn't shake him to his core, there's no tikva, there's no hope. There's nothing to hold on to. Positive reinforcement could work if you can touch a place of positivity. right? If I could say, I could see the nitzuts, so you could see the nitzuts. But what if you can't see your own nitzuts? Your brain is fried. So we all know such people. Some people know this very personally. They'll say, if he doesn't hit rock bottom, nothing is going to happen. Why not? Why not? Speak to him. The answer is, you're in an orbit that goes down, and there's nothing to do. I can't talk to you. You're completely in your own delusion. So he says, Reika kama mechur adam, how ugly are you? What does the man tell him? Go tell the Uman that made me, kama mechur sissa. The Rebbe teached, this was not a refutation of what Rebbe Lazar said. This was a response. Rebbe Lazar succeeded. For the first time in his life, the man protested that he has dignity. It was Rebbe Lazar's achievement. The first time in his life, the man felt that he's a keli, he's a vessel. Somebody made him. He was designed. There's a purpose in him. Not just there's a God who made him. He calls Hashem an uman. There's a difference. I could make you, and I could make you purposefully. Very different. There's people, theists. God made the world. Show why? He was bored. That's what artists do. They sit and they scribble. So God scribbled one day. That's not an uman. An uman, no. I build a vessel for a purpose because you ordered it. This is what the doctor ordered. This is what the balabuster ordered for the dining room. Lech uman sha'asa'ani, and tell him, this vessel that you made is disgusting. For the first time in his life, he felt he has a craftsman who made him with a purpose. There's meaning in his life. This was not a refutation of what Rebbe Lazar said. This is a result of Rebbe Lazar ben Reb Shimon. He actually broke through the clipper. He broke through the shell. He got to something. He got to a piece of light. That's why the man later didn't say, don't do it. Don't make it a habit. This is not the regular way how to inspire people. The regular way is not to come over and say, wow, you're really ugly. You are so ugly, like probably in your city. I mean, that's the Kool-Aid you drank. I'm not judging you, but you're like ugly. Usually, you could be typhus, a nakuda of goodness and build on it. But not always. Sometimes you can't. And when you can't, then you could run away or you could remain there. But the only way to remain there and help the person is you must crack. You must shatter the layers and layers and layers of toxicity, of denial, of lies, of deception, of insecurities, of egotism, of narcissism, of shtus, of insanity, of trauma. Any other words that I'm not getting? It's mamish. It's like it's a mansion of lies. What is it called? A mansion. I'm not a house. A house is good. A mansion. You live in a planet of lies, and lie after lie after lie, and not necessarily conscious, but all delusion. That's why Rabbi Lazu asked Mechila, because the fact that it worked so fast, the Rebbe said the fact that it worked so fast demonstrated to him that it wasn't as bad as he thought. The fact that the man right away fell to Uban, it means his soul was closer to the surface. But the person understood. He said, if this is a Gadol b'Yisrael, a leader has to be able to know the difference. If you're not getting the difference between the two, it's dangerous. So he said, I'm moichel you, but this shouldn't be a habit. This, you have to be very sensitive when you use it. Sometimes other people do it to us. Sometimes life circumstances do it. And it's actually a moment of birth. Not birth, it's a moment you created a uterus. Creating a uterus is not a small thing in life. It's a clay kibble. That's not a small thing. People think it's their lowest moment. In many ways, you're not going to get a higher moment than this. You know why? Because you got rid of all the dirt, all the filth. There's nothing there. You feel like I am v'efes mamish. Nish gefährlich. That moment. What am I? What am I? There's no I want, I say, I believe. You can almost hear the conversation in an. I say, I believe, I want. You say, I said, I want, but I can't, but I this. What's wrong? If you take these words out of context, what's wrong with somebody saying, I can't do this? This is what I want. This is good for me. These are actually very nice words. He says, he gives 3 examples. Kach ani roitze, kach toivli, zeini yachalasas. No, what's wrong? Isn't that what people say every day? Can you lend me money? I can't. Ini yachal. This is good for me, this I want. Yeah? These are not bad words. But very often, the context where it's coming from is a complete blindness to reality. In other words, it's about that. I can't, I want, this is good for me. What the real nakuda here is, there's no real openness. It's just... I don't like not finishing a sentence, but sometimes I can't finish the sentence. The I can't, this I want, this is good for me. These are almost instinctive. This is the MO in which I'm operating in. It's not coming from a place of strength, of awareness. It's coming from a place of weakness. It's protection. It's already a pre-written script. And that's why he says, and every person is expressed in a different way. This person is a Talmud Chacham. He sits and learns all day, yeah? But when he gets that telephone call once a day, how he responds is the same problem. The Alter Rebbe had a breitkeit. He wasn't afraid to say it about this. This is true. In other words, calling him a Yoshev Oyel, because people say, well, he's sitting and learning. Meshakela Beis HaMedrash, the Gemara says, once you're in the Beis Medrash, the menuvel goes away. There's no Yetzer Hara anymore. Right? The Gemara in Kiddushin, everybody knows. They ever told this to you? In Paga B'cha menuvel zeh, Meshakela Beis HaMedrash. So he says, but some menuvalim sneak into the Beis Medrash. Yeah, Nava B'Shus HaTorah. So sometimes it happens through life circumstances. Sometimes it happens through meeting a blessing in your life. And sometimes it can happen through his beinanus. What's his beinanus? His beinanus doesn't mean his beinanus, I contemplate this on my own, because my contemplation is usually part of the problem. Right? I'm stuck. But his beinanus means that the person sometimes in life can really open themselves up to something greater. You take a hammer and you pound it, and you create a chalal, you create a base of vlad, a clay kibble. Okay. Your daughter, Mazel Tov.
Don't make results before davening.
Gluten free. You understood?
Yeah, I get it. I usually have to run out.
Please pass this farm in this direction.
You said loy rogel, so it means
Loy rogel asaske.
it means that it worked with me, but a real question like this can only
Destroy. Of course. That's why it's so important.
it works, but it's not.
If it's misplaced, you're not gonna. Not only will it not be productive, it'll be destructive.
So how many people get discouraged by some rabbis making comments on them?
But that was a different comment. He wasn't making a comment because of his own insecurity.
Sure.
You understand? He was in a wholesome place. That's why the Gemara says he was happy. If he was angry, he was happy. He was coming from learning Torah. So be nice to people. Torah is supposed to make you nice, not selfish. The vart is he was really tuning in to the person. A lot of people, when they say negative things, it's just their own, they're miserable. And then you see how people take it then it's very destructive. Thank you, Rebbe Reuven. Can I trouble you to... Powerful word, huh? Mazel tov for the Schwester. And a binyan adeyad. Sach simchas. Oh, thank you so much. Excellent. Reb Moshe. When was the last time somebody gave this back to you? A day later.
It's coming tomorrow.
Tafasta? Arbayim yoim v'ninvei ne'peches.
So this mamish, the breakage of the emptiness, and I don't know how to deal with it.
Okay. It's good you're here.
I'm happy for myself just because I know something's been coming, but it's very impossible to do.
It's very painful.
Painful is not the word. It's
We stop recognizing ourselves. You don't recognize yourself. It's very hard. We have to acknowledge that too. Verstanden? When a person doesn't recognize himself anymore. Huh? Whatever a person goes through, God goes through. Ima yanoichi.
It's shattering.
It's one. It's like a parent and a child.
You lose confidence.
There's nothing that a person goes through that Hashem doesn't go through. There's a complete achdos.
So he goes with me through this.
Always. Gam ki elich begeitz al mavis lo irira ki ata imadi. The shadow of death. The valley of the shadow of death. What do you think that looks like? The valley of the shadow of death. What do you think that looks like? What do you think? It's eating sushi at a bar mitzvah?
I'm sure. There's a lot of
That may be too.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.